What's up, guys? It's Taylor. I'd like to welcome you back to the Heart of Azeroth for the final time. We are here to take a look at the second part of the Elemental Shaman two-part video series looking at their PvE and PvP talents. In the first video, we looked at their removed, changed, and new abilities, as well as their beautiful artifact weapon, the shield and the fist. The shield you can see on my back there. In this second video, we're going to be looking at the PvE and PvP talents that are coming to an Elemental Shaman in World of Warcraft Legion. So, let's go ahead and get straight into it. There are several changes, a lot of fun ones, interesting ones, kind of nostalgia ones there as well, so let's go ahead and get started. In the 15 tier here, we have Path of Flame. Lava Burst deals 5% more damage to and causes Flame Shock to spread from the target to a nearby enemy. So, kind of an AoE option, I guess you could say here. It basically will, if the target's close enough, Flame Shock will spread from the target to a nearby enemy. I honestly... This will be very powerful, I think, in a PvE situation in which you are facing a raid boss that is like double or triple. I'm not very good at knowing the different raid bosses, so I can't give you a really good example unless we're going like all the way back to Wrath of the Lich King. An example for that in Wrath of the Lich King for me would be I think it was the Iron Council. Something that has, 3 raid bosses. I know there are several raid bosses out there that have shared health pools, etc. This is what where I think it'll come in use, is that you'll be able to have Flame Shock on both enemies pretty much at all times, and so you'll never have to reapply it. As long as you're constantly going through your rotation and putting Lava Shock. Keeping Flame Shock on your main target, Lava Burst will do the job in making sure that Flame Shock is on the other side of things. The second option here is called Earthen Rage. Passive, your damaging spells incite the earth around you to come to your aid for 6 seconds, repeatedly dealing 10,000 fire damage to your most recently attacked target. I believe... oh no, I thought for a second it was this target over here, but it's actually, that's an enhancement shaman that's pulling it off. So let's go ahead and see if we can show this off right here. As you can see right there, it's already showing up. That is these big earthen boulders that are firing off for me. That is this talent. That's what it is. So you'll have constantly these little earthen spikes come out of the ground and fire. It's a little different from enhancement. They have more kind of like stormy boulders come out of the ground. But overall, Blizzard seems to really like it in terms of shamans. Your ability to have boulders come out of the ground and just kind of fire randomly at your target, which is a lot of fun to have. So you could see the storm one there for the enhancement shaman just a second ago, and I know you saw that several times when I did that in the enhancement shaman video. So in this version, we have the Elemental Shaman that is able to do that, which is pretty cool. So that is the second option, Earthen Rage. And I do believe Enhancement Shamans have a spell very similar to that. I can't quite remember. Let me just show this. I've never shown this to you guys in any of the video, how easy it is to change specs. As long as you're in a safe area, it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to go to a trainer. You're just able to switch specs and so forth. It isn't here. There's Earthen Spike. This is what I was thinking of. That because it uses the same icon. That's what I was thinking of. So there's not the same here, but they have their other stuff. I think it's through their artifact weapon that causes their the little spikes to pop out of the ground for them. But just so you know, specializations are easy to change back and forth inside just a safe area. You just have to be in a safe area. You can change back and forth between them. It's real simple, and it quickly switches between the artifact weapons and so forth when you need to. So, that's the first time I ever showed that to you. I hope you guys like that. Kind of makes sense considering this is the very last elemental, or the very last shaman video. So you've already seen what Resto and Enhancement have for talents. We're going through the elemental version now. The last option here is Totem Mastery. This is the nostalgia version, okay? So you remember how you basically had that you had that kind of mentality of where you had to like set up your totems before you started to like go full ham on the target. This is that, okay, for the most part. That's kind of what this is. Um, I don't expect this being used in PvP, to be honest. Uh, I just don't. But I'm gonna go ahead and use it right here. Plop. And as you can see, I have 4 totems around me, just like I used to. One of each type, and now I can begin, my rotation and blowing up the target. They all have their little static buffs. You can see them in the top right hand corner. Resonance totem will generate 1 maelstrom every 1 second. I believe that is the earth totem right here. We have the storm totem, increases the chance for lightning bolt and chain lightning to trigger elemental overload by 10%. So I just had a strike right there. We have the fire totem, which is called ember totem, increases flame shock damage over time by 20%. And then lastly, tailwind totem increases haste by 2%. That's your air totem. So basically, this is just a it's kind of a it's really a nostalgia option. This is like, okay, this is what it used to be. You can plop your totem down and go for it. Range on these. Let's go ahead and see just how far out of range I can go before these start to leave range for me. It looks like 40 yards. So it's a 40-yard range on the totems. It took a while for them to re-register me as I was coming back. So I'm not quite sure where the dead point is. If I just stand still right here, it does go away, but tailwind is still here, which is the closest one. So we're talking about I would say it's probably a 30-yard range on what the totems are. So definitely, I mean, I guess the best I can do is I can reset the totems right here and here around this target right here, and we can see, when I run out of range from lightning bolt, if I run out of range of the totems at the same times. So it's a 40-yard range. 40-yard range on your totems. Just make sure you're within your totem range and you'll get that buff. I do not see this being taken in PvP. Easily I see Earthen Rage being taken in PvP. Path of Flame may have an option in PvP, but I think Earthen Rage is easily the option that you will do in PvP, which is, just noticed something really weird. Those earthen spikes that were coming out of the ground, they were actually fire damage, which makes no sense to me. Considering how they looked, it looked like it should be earth damage. Not earth damage, nature damage. But it's fire damage, so it's a little strange. And yes, there is a bug to where if you change talents, as you notice, I still have my buffs, but I have Earthen Rage at the same time. You are not going to be able to do that in Legion. So do not count on that in Legion. That is definitely not something that you'll be able to. You're not going to be able to pop Totem Mastery, put your totems down, and have 2 minutes of having Totem Mastery before going into your chosen choice of Earthen Rage. Blizzard will not let that go through. So at the moment that's the case, but you will not have that later on. In the 30 tier we have Gust of Wind. A gust of wind hurls you forward. This is just a little push. This will help with escapability in PvP, which is really nice. I can see a lot of PvPers taking this just because it's just a way to get yourself away. Ancestral Guidance. I believe Ancestral Guidance was an old talent. It was an old talent in the 75 tier. For the next 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 20% of your damage and healing, including multi-strikes, is converted healing upon 3 injured party or raid members. It was a 2-minute cooldown, still 2-minute cooldown, and it's just straight 20% of your damage. The multi-strike section has been taken out because multi-strike is no longer in the game. So for the most part, it's essentially stayed the same. It's just now a 30 talent tier. Last option here is Wind Rush Totem. This is not like Wind Walk Totem. Wind Walk Totem basically got rid of all movement and parrying effects. This one instead will continually grant all allies within it 60% increased movement speed. I'll go ahead and display this for you. It is a targeting reticle. I'll use it, and I have increased movement speed. I'm going to jump out of it, let it die down, and I can move back in it to get the increased movement speed for the time being. It's a 2-minute cooldown though, so it's pretty hefty. I see PvPers easily taking Gust of Wind just because that kind of burst to get yourself out of range of someone is very important, and then you can Frost Shock spam them to irritate the crud out of them, and then so forth. PvE, it's a little bit more difficult. Ancestral Guidance would be kind of nice for your kind of raid healing. Windrush Totem has its uses, but probably in PvE you'll see Ancestral Guidance, and then in PvP probably Gust of Wind. On the 45 tier we have the incredibly lame name of the new Capacitor Totem. This is a Capacitor Totem basically. Like, that's what it is. It's Capacitor Totem. It's just called Lightning Surge Totem now. I don't know why I call it Lightning Surge Totem. That's just what they choose. I don't know. So its Capacitor Totem is here in a talent, and I've never demonstrated this before, but we'll go ahead and demonstrate it. Why not? I already have it on the bars. So, as you can see, big targeting reticle. Can fire this off really far, and nice big AoE, and then there's the big stun off of the target, so it's pretty nice. Earth Grab Totem. I have actually missed this in all of the other videos. I did not notice this until I was just reading through for the final time, looking between Shaman talents. Earth Grab Totem is exactly the same as the old one, with one little exception. It is a targeting reticle, very much like the one I just showed you. So before, it dropped it right at your feet. It said, okay, I'm going to root everyone right here. Now, it actually is something that you can use from a distance. And with that being said, this is going to be extremely powerful in something like Capture Flag or something. Because as a Shaman, I can throw this out here, and it will root people. That's really strong to be able to do that. I never realized that it was actually something like that before. It has a 35-yard range, targeting reticle, throw it out there, and you can root people, snare them, etc. That's really potent. Much better than it just dropping at your feet. I mean, if you're not very good at using the targeting reticle, that's your own problem, I guess. But for the most part, that's way better than what it is on live, and I would expect a lot of players to use that. Voodoo Totem is something that I do not expect any PvPers to take, and that is because it replaces Hex. Summons a totem at the target destination. The totem hexes all targets within 8 yards into frogs, which are incapacitated and unable to attack and cast spells. The reason why is because it's got such a tiny area. As you can see when I use it here, it's very tiny. I'll use it, as you can see right there. It's an 8-yard range, so it doesn't have a very large range in terms of who will hex. So it can have some usage, but in all honesty, it removes your ability to hex on a normal basis, because it replaces hex. So I don't know how popular that will be. You know, you're losing your ability to hex someone, you know, I can't remember what the cooldown is on hex. We'll go ahead and bring it back up again. Hex everyone every 30 seconds. You're losing that instead for kind of an AoE type hex. It's going to be on a 30-second cooldown. I don't know. I personally think that the radius is too small for it to be very potent in PvP, especially with what Earth Grab Totem and Lightning Surge can do with an actual, or Capacitor Totem. I'm going to call it Capacitor Totem. It's just way cooler with that. Capacitor Totem can do with the ranged. I see these being used in PvP more often. Voodoo Totem is something you can use in PvE, but it's another option that I don't see being used in, at least in dungeon PvE. And the reason for this is because Shamans as a whole don't have a really good CC. And this one is one that lasts for a full minute, which is really strong. So basically, you know, you're giving up your minute-long hex instead for something that only lasts for a little bit of time. That's going to be crucial in something like Mythic Dungeons. For raids, it's not a big deal. Maybe we'll see Voodoo Totems in raids. In fact, this will probably be the option in raids if I were to take a guess. If you have like an emergency situation, ads respond into the room, you can Voodoo Totem and hex them all up really quickly, to give you a quick 10-second, a quick hex on all those targets. I'm not quite sure. Actually, it doesn't really say how long the actual hexing lasts on Voodoo Totem. So I'm not quite sure, but I was under the impression that it would not last as long as having a full as having a full hex on the target. So I can double check that. That'll be kind of difficult to check. Um, I can go out into the PvE open world and check that and see how long someone has hexed, and I will put it in the comment section of this video. But I really see this as more of a PvE option in a non-mythic dungeon setting, in basically a setting in which you're in a raid. But for the most part, in PvP, I would expect Earth Grab and Lightning Surge to be more of the option, and then you use your Hex as you normally would instead in PvP, and then have Earth Grab and Lightning Surge, because that gives you more utility than if you were to just have an AoE Hex. Because in PvP, very rarely do we have everyone clumped up like that, and having them all clumped up like that, the minute they get attacked, they're going to be free anyways. So I would expect Earth Grab and Lightning Surge to be much more popular than Voodoo Totem. So that was a lot of time spent on the 45 tier. Moving to the 60 tier, we have good old Elemental Blast making a return. For the most part, I believe it stays the same. Increases your critical strike, haste, or mastery by 1200 for 10 seconds. Multi-strike's been taken out of that equation because multi-strike is gone. Spirit is gone as well. So that's all been removed. Spirit really wasn't usable for Elemental Shaman, but just throwing it out there. Otherwise, the cast time pretty much stays the same. The damage stays the same. I believe the damage proportionally will stay close to the same. And your buff in your... I believe the buff that you get from them, which is the old one used to be 500. Now it's stronger, but with stat increase and so forth, I think it's essentially going to be close to the same. For the most part, everything stays the same on Elemental Blast. It's just a great utility. It kind of adds to the your rotation, which I like. I like having more in the rotation than just Flame Shocks, Lava Burst, and then Lightning Bolt spams to fill the gaps with the occasional Earth Shock when you get the Maelstrom up high enough. I like having Elemental Blast, and I've always kind of been a fan of it, so it's an option for you. There's Ancestral Swiftness, which has changed from its base form. Ancestral Swiftness used to be increases haste by 5% and attack speed by 5% at all times, and then it was an active ability where you could your next nature spell would be instant, but they've gotten rid of it. It's just baseline 8% haste, 8% attack speed now. Echo of the Element. Lava Burst has 2 charges. Other effects that reset its remaining cooldown instead will grant 1 charge. This is essentially the same, except for it's only Lava Burst now instead of Lava Burst and Earthquake, what is now called Earthquake Totem. It's just one of them now. And do notice that this used to be, a little bit of tier based on kind of damage buffs, I guess you could say. Elemental Mastery used to be in this tier, and they kind of changed it around. For the most part, they basically just flipped Elemental Mastery and Elemental Blast into different tiers. But as you'll start to see as we go through these, Blizzard has gotten rid of the idea of, oh, this entire tier is for, damage mitigation, or this entire tier is for your healing off spec. They've kind of gotten rid of that, and they now just kind of like make interesting choices across the board. I know that's really difficult to see with what we've seen before. We have a CC tier in 45. You can probably say you can see it in the 30 tier. It's definitely there. Pretty much damage buffs across the board in the 15 tier. But for the most part, they have gotten rid of that mentality that this tier has to have a theme to it, and that's really fun. So it just gives interesting choices. In the 75 tier, we have Elemental Fusion, which used to be in the 100 tier. Flame Shock has a 5% chance to trigger, increased chance to trigger Lava Surge. I love Lava Surge, so it's a lot of fun. This is completely different from the old one. The old one was your Lava Burst and Lava Lash increase the damage of your next shock by 40%, stacking up the 2 times. This is now just more chances to trigger Lava Surge. Just so you know, the base proc on Lava Surge, to have an idea of how much is the increasing, Lava Surge is at 10% chance, so it'll be a 15% chance with Elemental Fusion. So you can choose Primal Elementalist. Your Earth, Fire, Storm Elementals are drawn from Primal Elementals, more powerful than regular Elementals with additional abilities, and you gain direct control of them. This is the same as it is on Live. It's just now in the 75 tier instead of the 90 tier. And I did go ahead and check, and I'll put it in the other video just to be sure, but in the first video I mentioned I wasn't sure if the durations of the elementals coordinated with their changed cooldowns. They do, it does for fire. So fire used to be a 2.5 minute cooldown with a 30-second uptime. Now it's a 5-minute cooldown with a 1-minute uptime. So it stayed the same there. However, Earth Elemental did not stay the same. It used to be 5 minutes with a 1-minute uptime, and now it's 2 minutes with a 15-second uptime. That is a nerf. I think to make it even, it would have to be like a... Gosh, I don't even know what one-fifth of that would be. It'd be like something... well, we have 120 seconds. One-fifth of that is something like... trying to do math off the top of my head really quickly. It's like 22 seconds. Something like that. That's how long it would have to be. If I got that right, 22 seconds for... 24 seconds, excuse me. It would have to be 24 seconds for it to be on par with what it was on Live. So it is a nerf there for the Earth Elemental Totem, but it stays the same for Fire Elemental Totem. So I just wanted to insert that there, but you'll see that in the other videos comment section that has been changed. So in the last tier here we have Ice Fury. This is a new ability. I really like this one, and it really makes things interesting. And I wonder if PvEers are going to take this or not. My guess is they'll probably take Primal Elementalist, but this is something interesting. So right now my Frost Shock does 11,000 with no Maelstrom at all. If I build up 20 Maelstrom, I'll build it up real quick. 20 Maelstrom, my Frost Shock does, that's a crit, come on, 24,000. And I believe, yes, that was full Maelstrom build there. So, Ice Fury hurls frigid ice at the target, dealing 43,000 frost damage, and causing your next 4 Frost Shocks to deal 400% increased damage. This is awesome for PvP, and I see all PvPers taking this, because if they're going to have to be spamming Frost Shock to keep reduction of melee out of their range, having this is natural. It's a quick cast. I'll use it right here, just launch it across, and so my next 4 of them, 112,000, 81,000, 62,000, 56,000, that's due to the lack of Maelstrom that I had there towards the end. It does a whole lot more damage. So this helps out with allowing your Frost Shock to deal damage, in addition to you trying to frost them and keep them at a distance. I can understand how burst primal elementals can give you more burst. Elemental fusion will maybe give you a little bit more sustained damage against the target, but I think in a PvP situation, sustained damage will be pretty much equal with Ice Fury, and I would see Ice Fury being more popular than Elemental Fusion. Now, as far as PvE is concerned, I don't see Ice Fury. I don't think 400% increased damage will be enough to make Frost Shock on par with what an Earth Shock can do. I think Earth Shock's going to get more bang for your buck per Maelstrom point than Frost Shocks will. So, with that being said, I don't think Ice Fury will be the option for PvEers, but it is definitely a very potent option for PvPers, and I personally will probably be taking Ice Fury. Once again, I like having more additions to my rotation anyways, just because it's more fun to have. In the 90 tier, we have Elemental Mastery. It has been changed here. Elemental forces empower you with 30% haste for 20 seconds. This is exactly how it is on Live, so no changes there. Storm Elemental. Big thing to notice here with Storm Elemental. Not only is it moved down a tier, however, it's moved down a tier, but also it now replaces your Fire Elemental Totem. So you have to take note of this. And so what's the point of getting rid of your Fire Elemental? Well, do take note that you gain Maelstrom from this Storm Elemental Totem. So you're gonna generate more Maelstrom by taking the Storm Elemental Totem. Uh, Basically, this tier, I know I talked big about them getting rid of kind of themes here. This tier is kind of themed towards generating more Maelstrom. Aftershock, your spells refund its 25% of all Maelstrom spent on them. So it's an option there. You just have a passive option to get a lot of your Maelstrom back, which actually is pretty potent. It's very confusing to see how much Maelstrom you have left. There are many times, even when recording videos, in which I've been like, I should have gotten rid of like 90 of my Maelstrom. How do I end up with like 30 Maelstrom at the end of all that damage and attacking? And it's because of the Aftershock that I have had on this entire time. And, once you have it maxed all the way up, which I will try and do right here, and build it up. There it is at max right now. I'll use Earth Shock, but at the end of it I still have 25 left as opposed to 90. I should only have 90 left, and that's because 25% of that 90 has been refunded. So, I personally like it. It allows you to continue to keep your Maelstrom up when you're building up for those massive Earth Shocks. Just think about it. If you have to apply a Flame Shock immediately after an Earth Shock, this allows you to immediately get a full 30 seconds without burning all of your, like immediately after an Earth Shock. You can go Earth Shock, Flame Shock right after one another and get a full 30 seconds on it. And that's because of the saving that you're doing on Aftershock. So in a rotation sense, this may be more popular, but I'm not a theory crafter, so this will be up to the theory crafters to see what is the better option between the three. My personal favorite, though, specifically also in PvP, will probably be Aftershock. In the last tier, we have Ascendance. This works just like it does on live. Big fire, flame ascendant, and a lot of flames and fires going all over the place. It's the elemental way. In the second tier, we have Lightning Rod. I've had this on the entire time, and you've seen it most likely several times, but you may have just thought it was a cool new animation for chain lightning and whatnot. It's not. It's actually a talent. You'll see a thunder strike to the sky right there. Right there again. It's really cool. That is Lightning Rod. Your Lightning Bolt and Shade Lightning have a 30% chance to make the primary target a lightning rod for 10 seconds. Lightning rods take 30% of all damage you deal with lightning. Take 30% of all damage you deal with lightning bolt and chain lightning. So this is. I don't know how to describe this. This is really difficult to describe. Let me go ahead and get this up. And let me get a lightning rod on this target again, and then this will make more sense. So it's a lightning rod right now because of that. And as I'm attacking this other target, it's still taking damage from the lightning rod for the time being. And I'll switch back, and I'll start doing lightning on this target, and you're going to see lightning strikes on that other target. So this kind of puts some pressure on another target if you need to switch targets. But in reality, it's just extra damage on your main target if you're doing, there is a potential to switch targets, but 10 seconds is too small of a window for it to be a real big deal. I honestly feel like this is just going to end up being a bonus damage to your main target. That's basically it. The last option here is Liquid Magma Totem. I do believe this functions pretty much exactly how it does on live. It's its own totem now because it used to convert your fire totem. Now it's its own totem now because it actually has to they don't have base fire. You don't have searing totem over all the way. Excuse me. You don't have searing totem down all the time to always go ahead and soak the damage and so to kind of convert magma into. So I'll go ahead and use this right here. You can see right there. Just it's pretty cool. It's still just as cool as it was on live when it first came out. I still really like this ability. I think it's a lot of fun. It does sit there. I believe it lasts for the same amount of time, 15 seconds. It actually lasts 5 seconds longer. But it does have an increased cooldown from 45 seconds to 1 minute. But it is a totem that you actually get to put down. So you'll get to decide whether you like it or not. The problem is that it's an AoE effect, and 15 seconds is plenty of time for whatever you're facing to be like, I should get out of this, and they just walk out of it. In PvP, I expect Ascendance to be taken most likely. Burst cooldowns, a cooldown that you can use for burst. PvEers, it's going to be up to you. I might take Lightning Rod just because I don't know why. I just don't like Flame Ascendant that much. I'm a noob that way. And having lightning crash down from the sky is really fun, but it likely will not be the option taken in PvP for sure. In PvE, I think it'll be an option between Liquid Magma, Lightning. It really could be any of these. It's going to be up to the theory crafters to decide. So that is the entire PvE talent tree. There's a lot of fun stuff there for elemental shamans, and I really do like it. And there's, there's all kinds of stuff you can do there in that tree. Change it up, change rotations up. A lot of rotation changing that can happen in that tree. And just even from something like passive talents like Aftershock, it can really change things up. So I really do like it, and it adds some complexity. So with that, let's go to the Honor talent tree. How Honor is going to work in World of Warcraft Legion. Basically, you start at level 1, you work your way all the way to 50, and as you work your way to 50, you'll get all these talents. For the first... I'm starting to not be able to talk very well today. For the first 6 tiers, 10 levels, you will get the first 6 tiers. And then at level 13, you'll start up with Adaptation, go all the way down to Traveling Storms, and then the last tier will be filled in with 46 being the last one. And it will, then at 50, you can decide to Prestige and start all the way at level 1, and you'll be back with only a Gladiator's Medallion. You have to work your way up again. So it'll be up to you to whether or not you want to actually restart all over again, or you want to just go as is. So with that being said, let's look at the first tier. This is all about your Honorable Medallion. You get an Honorable Medallion when you first go into a BG. That's basically going to be like an heirloom trinket. So this will deal with that. An heirloom trinket is like a 3-minute cooldown trinket. You can choose Gladiator's Medallion, which replaces your Honorable Medallion, and it's a 2-minute cooldown trinket, so it's like your base trinket that you have now in PvP. Your second option is Adaptation, all loss of control effects with a duration of 5 seconds or more. Activate your Honorable Medallion spell, but only causes it to incur a 60-second cooldown. I like this for DPS in PvP. I do not expect any healers to take this because it's so important for them to actually have more control over when they get out of stuff. And tanks may take this. I don't know. It'll be up to them. Depending on how much damage tanks are able to mitigate and how much they're able to deal, it'll be completely up to them. Do know that if you activate your 3-minute Honorable Medallion, Adaptation will be put on a 3-minute cooldown. Relentless is the third option here. It replaces your Honorable Medallion, and the duration of incoming crowd control effects is reduced by 25%. So just know that honestly, I only see tanks taking this. I only see anybody who can like withstand a lot of damage or do a lot of healing to themselves when they're stunned or in a crowd control effect like Resto Druid or tanks. Those are the only ones I really see taking this. Otherwise, I see everyone taking these other options. In the second tier, this is usually one all aimed at ranged DPS. So you have a damage increase by 15%. Being attacked will cancel this effect for 8 seconds. You have Mind Quickness, which increases haste by 6%. And then you have Initiation, critical strike of your damaging abilities and attacks increased by 30% on targets at or above 80%. I honestly see most shamans taking this just because the critical strikes are insane. Remember, they do like 250% increased damage as opposed to 200% increased damage. In this third tier, this is the same, I believe, for all shamans. You actually get a totem tier. You can decide what to do, and these totems are awesome. You can summon a fire totem with 5 health at the feet of the caster for 15 seconds. That increases the critical effect of damage and healing spells of all nearby allies for within 40 yards for 30% for 15 seconds. So it's a lot of crit. This is something that I really can see Elemental taking for damage. They can hide it in a position to where it won't be attacked and really deal some serious damage. Though it is at the foot of the caster, at their feet, so you'd have to hide it somewhere real quick and then pop out and start dealing damage. Though that's a really powerful option to have. 45-second cooldown, and it lasts for 15 seconds, so you have a 33% uptime on that. The Counter-Strike totem is really powerful as well. 45-second cooldown, summons an air totem with 10 health at the feet of the caster for 15 seconds. Whenever enemies within 20 yards of the totem deal direct damage, the totem will deal 100% of the damage dealt back to the lowest health enemy within range of this totem. That is so cool because it just allows players to kill It allows players in PvP to kill their own teammates, which is just, it's way too cool. And then the third option is your Wind Fury Totem. 30-second cooldown. Summons a Wind Fury Totem with 5 health at the target destination. So you'll be able to move it anywhere. For 1 minute, if the totem is destroyed, Wind Fury Totem incurs a 30-second cooldown. Wind Fury Totem enchants all allies within 10 yards. Weapons with wind causing attacks to have a 40% chance to generate an additional 3 extra attacks, dealing 3,400 physical damage. This is basically if you have a lot of melee on your team, Wind Fury Totem will be really powerful. If the first part of that was really confusing, basically it's saying if 25 seconds have gone by and it's destroyed, it will incur a 30-second cooldown. If 30 seconds have gone by, you will be able to replace the totem. Even though it has a 1 minute, it lasts for 1 minute, you can replace the totem in a different area. Maybe if it's in a kind of a sketchy area and it may be attacked at that moment, you can change position of it. That's basically what it's saying. So you have a 30-second cooldown on its placement, but if it gets destroyed, it has a 30-second cooldown from when it gets destroyed. So it can get to 29 seconds. You know, it's about to come off cooldown, and then someone destroys it, and you have to reset all over again, which would be kind of disappointing. In the third tier, we have Purifying Waters. Whenever you successfully purge a target, or when you are dispelled, you are healed for 5% of your total health. Spectral Recovery. When in Ghost Wolf form, you heal for 40% health every 2 seconds. I kind of like this one right here. And then there's Swelling Waves. When you cast Healing Surge. When you cast Healing Surge on yourself, you are healed again for the same amount 3 seconds later. I think I tried this on maybe Enhancement Shaman. I didn't like it very much. I probably would go with Spectral Recovery as an Elemental Shaman. In the fifth tier, we have a Fire and Ice. Frost Shock makes me think of Game of Thrones. Episode 10 of Season 6 comes out tomorrow, so I'm kind of excited for that. Is a passive. Frost Shock now deals 20% additional damage, and Flame Shock's periodic damage generates 3 Maelstrom. This is really nice in PvP, especially when we're looking at something like Ice Fury and the increased damage on Frost Shock. Fire and Ice can be really powerful. You have Elemental Attunement, increases your maximum Maelstrom by 50. I hate this. Just to be blunt, I hate this. Your Earth Shock can only go up to 100 anyways. It's not like it can go beyond the 100 that it can consume. And for the most part, whenever you hit maximum Maelstrom, there's enough going on that you're going to use Earth Shock to reduce it anyways. So I just don't see this being taken at all, period. Control of Lava, it replaces Lava Surge, so it replaces your ability to have that like extra lava proc, but your Lava Burst deals 200% additional damage and generates 30 Maelstrom when it deals damage. This technically, if you're only able to get a Lava Surge proc every once in between the cooldown of Lava Surge, which is 8 seconds, if you're only able to get 1 proc of Lava Surge in between that, then this would be I think a bonus. However, if you don't, then it's not worth that much. So I'm not really sure. I feel like Fire and Ice will give you more in a PvP setting than this will. This is such a small damage increase. Your Lava Burst deals 200% additional damage. That is, let's see, technically a regular Lava Surge proc would be 75% additional damage, if I have that correctly, in terms of what it would do. So this does 200% additional damage and generates 30 Maelstrom when it actually deals damage, as opposed to 12, so you get a lot out of it. And since Lava Burst is only on an 8-second cooldown, this may be something that you like. I personally like the procs because, you know, when you lose Lava Surge, you lose the instant cast, which I think is really important as a Shaman. I remember Shamans have lost this now for a while now, but they no longer have instant cast Lightning Bolt, so I would personally prefer Fire and Ice. I think this is the better option. And then Elemental Attunement, I think it's worthless. I think people will be choosing between Control Lava and Fire and Ice, but that'll be kind of up to you to decide. In the last tier, we have Earth Fury. Casting a 100 Maelstrom Earth Shock will stun the target for 2 seconds. That's really cool. But in all honesty, I don't know how popular it'll be. 2 seconds doesn't seem like much. And you have to have a 100% Maelstrom Earthshock. So, maybe if you have some stuff lined up, the 2 second stun will be really powerful. Um, that wouldn't trigger adaptation that some people would have. So you have a chance to do a lot of burst in that 2 seconds if you can do it really quickly. But I'm not quite sure about it. Traveling storms. If you've been jealous of hunters, which hunters no longer have the ability to do this anymore, but if you've been jealous of hunters this past expansion, their ability to launch like a trap out in the eye of the storm and launch all people out from 40-yard range, you now have that ability. Thunderstorm now will have its cooldown reduced by 15 seconds. That's not 15,000 seconds. That's 15.000. I don't know why the extra zeros are there. They'll fix that, I'm sure. Um, it allows you to cast it on any character now. So if there's this melee tank that you have in the center that's just wrecking shop, you can cast Thunderstorm on them and see everyone blown off the bridge or whatever, which is pretty cool. This is something I would probably take just because the goal for me, I usually do random battlegrounds and I go in to have fun, and if I'm not having fun, why do it at all? The hardcore people will likely not use this because it's like, I mean, I can see this being actually used in maybe an arena setting or in a PvP setting, in a rated setting. So don't get me wrong, it has its usage. Using a tank flag carrier in a rated setting, or using it on, maybe just to give you a wild example. One person is barely holding out on a flag as you're in Gilneas. And you are on your way to help them, and you're able to hit them, your ally, with a traveling storm to knock them off the flag, it'd be very useful. However, it's 40 yards. By that time, you're in range of the target, and you'll be able to keep them off anyways. So really, I can only see this being more of a fun ability that you can use. However, in an arena, I can see it like getting people off of your healer and so forth, even in a rated setting, getting people off of your healer to protect them. So that's how it can come into use. In a more tactical, in a more rated, higher rating, higher rated play, I should say. But for just for funsies, I just want this just so I can mess with people on bridges and so forth. It'd be a lot of fun. The last option here is going to be Lightning Lasso. It grips the target in lightning, stunning the target and dealing a 2,400 damage over 6 seconds. So you're stunning them. 6 second, for 6 seconds you're sitting there stunning them. So you can take someone basically out of the fight for 6 seconds if they don't have a trinket, and deal a lot of damage to them. So that's pretty powerful. For an elemental shaman to be able to do that, it's only a 6 second cooldown, so you can harass healers with this every 30 seconds using Lightning Lasso. I probably expect this to be the option to take. I could be wrong about Earth Fury, but I really think Lightning Lasso will be the option to take. But Earth Fury could be a very powerful option as well if you can get a lot of burst off, set up a lot of burst for that 2 second window. It can be powerful. Maybe you have a Lava Surge proc, and then everything all together will align. I'm not quite sure for that Earth Fury to be really powerful. But otherwise, Lightning Grip would be the option, I think, in PvP. Well, I mean, this is a PvP talent, so it can only be used in PvP. But I would say in pretty much all aspects of PvP. So, that is everything for the talents for PvP and PvE for an Elemental Shaman. This is the last Elemental Shaman video. This is the last time you will be seeing the Maelstrom until you are actually able to go there with patch 7.0. I believe when patch 7.0 comes out, you will not be able to actually access these quite yet. You gotta wait until the actual expansion releases. Don't quote me on that, but I believe you have to wait until the actual expansion releases before you're able to go to any class order halls, which is a bummer. But it would have been cool if they would have allowed you to kind of hang out in class order halls before the expansion releases. But some of these class order halls are sitting in Legion areas, so you would not be able to get to them anyways. So, this will be the last bit from here. I will check up on Voodoo Totem just so I can give you a response on that. And then in the other video, I will relay that information regarding elementals and how they have changed in World of Warcraft and Legion. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is the last elemental, last shaman video, and I personally am thinking of bringing my shaman back. I really do like where shamans are going. I love the new resource Maelstrom. It's a lot of fun, and they've done a lot to change it and a lot of improvements without ruining the original playstyle of the spec, which I really like. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Tearless out.